Can you hear me now? Great. Sorry, I don't know if my video is taking up too much bandwidth or what. If I need to, I can turn it off. Welcome, everybody. Get my agenda lined up here. All right, I see Craig, I see Tim, I see Brian, John, Dean, Jeff yet? Jeff's there too. All right, we have all of council, so we can begin. I'll call to order this evening's Tuesday, December 15th, 2020 special city council meeting, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic, for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. We have a pretty good agenda here. We do not have public comment tonight, although I want to recognize if anybody is here as a guest, you're more than welcome. We just don't typically, as procedure, have public comment at the beginning of our special meetings. I did invite Lori Young to be here tonight. She is, I see, signed in. She's not feeling well, unfortunately. I'd hoped we could have a big welcome and introduce her, but understandably she's not feeling well. She just wants to be here to the best of her ability. So with that, our top of the agenda, we have our new city administrator contract, which you have been provided. I hope I foreshadowed everything that was meaningful in our last regular city council meeting. I know we discussed salary extensively, and if anyone has any questions about that, please don't hesitate. At this time, the Wabasha Personnel Committee provided an offer contingent on City Council's approval, as well as contingent upon a clean criminal background check, which is underway. The offer has been accepted by Lori Young, and it was attached with her signature. And this, of course, was facilitated by our city attorney with Flaherty and Hood. I have provided reference checks for 8 of the 9 individuals that Lori provided to us. I just, as a courtesy, hadn't yet reached out to her current colleague. I wasn't sure whether she'd made notice of her intent, given that we don't have a signed agreement. But she has given me the go-ahead to call that last individual. References were very positive and very consistent, and very nicely consistent with the way that Lori presented herself and her own experience in her interview. Lori could start as early as January 15th. She was able to secure housing, which was kind of the questionable piece there. So we went back and forth about whether February 1 was more realistic, but indeed she was able to make the arrangements to, if needed, start as early as January 15th. So that is reflected in the agreement. Do we have any, do we want a motion and then a second so that we can have discussion? I think that's probably proper. Do I hear a motion to approve the employment agreement for the hiring of Lori Young for the Wabasha City Administrator position with that start date of January 15th, pending a criminal background check?
I'll move to approve.
I think I heard Dean too. So I think I heard is that correct, Dean? Was that you?
Yes, that was Moyer.
Okay, so we'll take a first from Dean Moyer. We'll have a second from John Friedmeier. Any discussion or questions, please?
Yeah, I guess I'll lead it off a little bit. So I've been following this from the outside. I wasn't part of the interview committee or anything, but we started off with 88,000 as the salary. I guess my main questions are about salary. Started off as 88,000. Then we were saying that's probably not, that's probably the low end. Put that at 94. Then somebody mentioned 98. And I guess I see by the thing it's now at 101. So my feelings are, it seems like a lot of money for this town. It seems like we're at the high end on the salary range.
Well, we are at exactly what we were paying our current administrator. So I was in favor of putting this value in right at the outset of our budget discussions. And I requested that Chad did that. And he had good reason for trying to, assume that we might be able to hire at a lower salary rate. In my experience hiring, you typically don't get somebody qualified for less than you were paying the person to do the job prior. But that's my experience is limited to my sector. So what transpired, Craig, to be specific about those changes, is we just plugged that number in. That was just a number. I mean, I don't even remember where 88 came from. I suppose it was in line with a particular step. I think that's where we drew from. Wasn't the step we currently had our administrator at, but it was just, it's a step. So in doing so, no one in the screening calls that Tim or I conducted said that's a deal breaker, but realistically, nobody wants to be eliminated from the process just because of a salary requirement. I think it was recognized, and when people asked, it was recognized that would be the bottom of the range. So nobody screened out related to that, even though we had candidates whose salary history certainly exceeded 88. In our pool of applicants, the two most qualified applicants exceeded our 88. So you're right, we came back to that next budget workshop and realizing that we were going to need to certainly come to close or at the level that of salary expectation that the two top candidates had. Actually, the first top candidate, the second candidate has a salary history that exceeds even what we're looking at today. They come from a larger city and their pay is commensurate with what the market would demand, what they could command in the market. So in just after our budget meeting, we got really good information from Lori related to the very specific nature of her compensation structure in the city that she currently works in. So she just laid it all out for us to say, really, I can't lose out on this deal. And so in doing so, we recognized that she had some healthcare benefits. Well, I'll start with just salary alone. While we had her salary history for 2020, she was able in November of, I guess that was December. Well, when was our budget workshop?
November.
Yeah, right. By the time we were discussing in early December, she was able to provide for us not only her salary history for 2020, but what she would anticipate her salary would be for 2021. Because just like our council, they're at the end of their year arriving at a final budget, and theirs does include a step increase and a cost of living adjustment. So she was able to be very explicit about her actual compensation expectation for 2021. We also acknowledge that there's some differences in her healthcare provisions in her current employment. Instead of negotiating saying, sure, we'll match what your healthcare is, we really wanted to stay uniform across employees and not make a special, sort of special offer related to the administrator hire, although you can do that for different classifications of employees. It's just, I prefer not to. I think it's perceptually, it feels more equal when people are all accessing healthcare the same way within the same employer. So instead of perfectly meeting her with regards to healthcare, we tried to factor in what how some of those costs could be in wage. And so we've arrived at that, it's not a magic number, it just is what it is. We've arrived, and then also aligning with an actual step, we've arrived at the 101, I forget, 117, something like that. So that is how that came to be. It came to be through further discussion and more clarity about, what we would need to provide as a competitive full compensation package. Does that make sense? I know it's for those of us who are involved.
Does anybody
does,
else on the hiring committee want to add anything to that, or?
Yeah, I'd welcome that. And we, as the committee was involved as this information came in. Jeff, Brian, anything you want to add?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say that, like Emily was saying, the whole idea was that you want to get someone in with the same, similar, or better qualifications, and you basically got to pay for that. So that was kind of the overall view we had.
Brian?
Yeah, I'd echo both of those. We really had to take a look at, when salary became a factor. We even revisited, do we want to take a step back and hire someone we need to train for a lower salary? Is that a path we want to take? Even after we had kind of narrowed down our candidates. So we seriously considered that. And just talking to staff and amongst ourselves, it's not what we need right now with the Eagle Center and the Corps and everything we have going on. And a relatively young staff, admittedly on their end, they would like guidance and leadership, and that's kind of what we arrived at. And as far as where the salary came from, I think Emily did a good job explaining how we played with it quite a bit. And yeah, it was definitely to compensate for different sorts of benefits. You know, we tried to make it up in salary instead of attaching, you know, different sorts of benefits in terms of healthcare, vacation, things like that.
Thanks. That's context is probably more important than the nitty gritty of how we went back and forth. But also, you might remember, Craig, that we had provided to us a salary survey from the League of Minnesota Cities real early on in the process, which was helpful, and Purnell got that right away. That to me also was like, ding, ding, ding. We're not going to administrator for $88,000. None of the other cities comparable to us have been able to do that. And so, you know, that validates, I think, what we've learned in the process, that salary survey information. All right. Any other questions related to the process or anything? You could certainly call on Lori if she's able to connect with audio. I hate to call on somebody who's sick. I was just looking back for reference to try to brush up on details related to the Greater Minnesota Futures Project and how we might take that forward in 2021. There's a couple city council meetings where I don't know quite why I was there. I was definitely an infectious sick person, but if Lori wants to say hello, you sure can, Lori. I think we've got you connected. Oh, we may have lost her. I don't like to call on sick people, but we'll get to know Lori, you know, shortly if this motion is approved. But I just want to make sure there's no other further questions. Jane, thanks personally for being involved. Also, thank you to Con Walters. We really did have a good, robust discussion. And again, I was just thinking back on our process just to kind of think, you know, how would we would have ever done this differently. You know, we've learned a lot through this process, and I'm glad that we took the process that we did. We were able to really be candid, not only in the approach to the interview questions, but also kind of, as you pointed out, Craig, in a prior meeting, you know, you want to be able to candidly discuss these candidates. And we wanted to be able to have these discussions of, yeah, God, this person's got a lot of potential, but can they really do this job? You know, can they really stand up to some of the federal agencies and state, you know, entities that we're going to have to deal with as we move forward in some of these projects? And we arrived at the conclusion that we needed somebody who can actually speak to their experience and has demonstrated results and whose references align with their own assessment of their abilities. And we have that in Lori, so.
I'd just like to put it out there that for the other 4 council members that weren't really directly involved in this, if they feel they have gotten enough information to really make a good decision tonight on this issue.
Thanks for that, Jeff.
Jeff,
No, I think go ahead.
I missed what Jeff had said. I'm sorry.
I was just checking to see if the 4 of you guys that really weren't directly involved in this, if you feel you've gotten enough information on the candidate to make a decision on this issue tonight.
Jeff, I think I have. And thanks you guys for the work you did, and Jeff for stepping in. I had the opportunity to look at and to spend a little time in the early stages of this search. And I think Lori comes out as a good top candidate. And with your recommendation, I think we should look at approving it. My only question would be, how much conversation did you guys have with respect to economic development, Port Authority? Are you comfortable that she can step in, at least in the interim, until we determine what our leadership's going to be for the Port Authority?
Thanks for that question, John. And I've been dying to share this kind of stuff with you guys, but I want to do so in the context of our public meeting. So really appreciate that question. Lori is the economic development director for her current community. And that was one of the issues we spoke to with regards to the expectations of her position. She's also the zoning administrator in her current role. And so she spoke to it, and housing, really, I really keyed in on the progress that she's been able to lead in her community with regards to housing, but other economic development initiatives. And her references, without me asking about that, really wanted me to know that they felt that was a strength, especially her neighboring city administrator references, who I think they're a little jealous actually of what Lori's been able to achieve in her city. So speaking specifically to housing, but also other projects, alluding to, the desire for hotel development, similar to the desire we have for that here. So I hope that the port will entertain a conversation with Lori very early on, should she become hired, because I think she would bring great benefit to that group, not only from the experience with economic development, but it sounds like also specifically with regards to her leadership style, which everybody referred to her as a go-getter and somebody who's going to get things done, willing to start the conversation, but also willing to make sure things really happen. So I am, not being a part of the Port Authority, can only, be enthusiastically encourage that, but I don't think Lori would hesitate to have that conversation.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Anybody else want to speak to their, Tim, Craig, you want to speak to your sense?
Yeah. So yeah, I've been involved with it initially. I wasn't part of the interview panel, but through all of the work with the phone interviews, the reviewing the letters, applications and stuff, and then talking numerous conversations with Brian and the mayor as well. I think I have enough information. I think she was on my list of one of the top ones that we should interview. So I kind of feel comfortable with it.
Craig, anything further you'd want to know? All right. Yeah, it's been a good, thorough process. And I'm really appreciative also of the references. I, do a lot of reference checks, and you get people who all they'll tell you is, I can confirm this person worked here. And that's not helpful at all. But I guess it does away with the fact that somebody could, have a completely fabricated resume. But aside from that, it doesn't help you at all. Lori's references were really thorough, really honest, really consistent, really enthusiastic, and very timely in responding to me. So as that, in that process of doing reference checks, I also welcomed that, anybody from personnel who felt they wanted to further follow up could probably do so with the same level of in my written report. And I tried to use direct quotation as much as possible, so people really get a sense of these references. It was just consistent. And so I felt, good about delivering that level of detail. I didn't think I'd get that much information. So. All right. Any further discussion or questions? We have a motion and we have a second. Hearing no further discussion, we could take a vote by roll.
Holcomb?
Was that me?
Yes. Falcom?
Yes.
Moyer?
Yes.
Solo?
Yep.
Woodley?
Yes.
Friedmeier?
Yes.
Walrick?
Yes.
Durand?
Yes. Thank you. And I will also say, I didn't want to conjecture, the discussion about Lori with a discussion about us, but I felt very pleased to tell the candidates that we were interviewing that we have not only a functional city staff, which we're very grateful for, but we also have a very functional council. And I really appreciate that. That is not a given. Everybody who's participated has really put a lot of work in. Everybody who has been, less directly involved, I think has been very attentive and asked very good questions. I really respect the collegiality that we have to get this kind of stuff done. It's a very important decision. And I know that not every council enjoys the level of respect and relationship for one another that we do. And I also think that that's a great environment to bring a new leader into. I'll be very enthused for all of us to help Lori get to know the community. I'm already thinking about who we need to have Zoom lunches with. I mean, typically I just would want to walk her all over town, but that doesn't look like it's in the near future. But I know we will be doing that. I already called Meg Gamage Tucker just with regards to the expansion to say, this is where we're on track we think with regards to an administrator hire. I hope person can't wait to introduce you. And so I look forward to doing that. I'm sure others do it too. So I'm very excited, and I'm really appreciative that we have the environment in which to bring someone in, and I think expect great things from them, not only based on their capabilities, but based on the partnerships that we're all accountable for in terms of working with that person. So super.
Mayor, did you have a start date?
Unmute. It's listed in the agreement as January 15th, and Lori feels that's doable. So yeah, you staff members can think about your, what your onboarding, so to speak, in terms of some of the norms with regards to department head meetings and things that time out with regards to that start date. I think I see Wendy smiling under her mask. I know we really did benefit from having Tony and Wendy involved, because we know what we want as a council, but these people function day to day, all day, every day with this individual. And I really was pleased to have their input with regards to the questions that these people needed to be asked in order to demonstrate what type of leadership they're going to bring directly to City Hall. So thank you, especially to you guys. And of course, because of the fact that Wendy's, full-time at City Hall, she's facilitated a lot of the legwork and paperwork to get this process underway. All right, so now we have Jane here. Jane Glander is going to join us, and I think Lori is as well. I know that I see Lori, and I see Lori's Galaxy. I hope Lori Young is still on and enjoying this decision related to her hire, but we also have Lori Glomsky from the chamber. So I don't know which of you would like to start, but I'm sure you'll just go for it.
Yes, good evening, and this is Lori, and I'm the chamber director, and I'm here. Jane and I are here this evening to just give you a little update on the chamber. And Jane is the secretary for the Wabasha Kellogg Chamber. And she'd like to give you some updates on what our financial books are, what we do with your generous contribution to the chamber every year. So I'm going to turn it over to Jane, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Jane, you're muted still. At least it looks like you're still muted.
Unmute. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks, Lori. I know she was just a little nervous. I'm actually the board treasurer, not the secretary, but either works. I'm a jack of all trades and master of none. Thanks, Emily, for encouraging us to participate in this meeting. And I just want to say how thankful over the past years of my involvement with the chamber and the city for always considering the Wabasha Kellogg Chamber of Commerce and what we do for the city of Wabasha and Kellogg and the benefits we think you help us with, and in turn, we help you with. So I just gathered a few figures together just to give you a little bit of an idea of what your $15K that you've allotted help us with do out of the chamber office. We maintain a website that's wabashamn.org, and it's a great website. It helps us facilitate a lot of things for the Wabasha Kellogg city and the towns of itself. That runs us about $17,000 a year alone. In addition to that, we maintain a Facebook account, which we try to be very active on. We may maintain Google, constant contacts. Those are just minimum things, maximum things, however you want to look at it, that we do pay for. We printed last year about 30,000 guides for 2020, and that runs us approximately $25,000 to print those. I know I kind of heard that there were questions if we have a lot of guides left over from past years. From the guides that we printed in 2019, there were very few. Now, granted, you're going to have some left over because you're always taking a stab in the dark at how many you need to order. We're looking at 2021 at not reproducing more guides, but adding some inserts into what we have left here. I mean, we do have our members that pay for some advertising the guides. It doesn't begin to cover the expense, but it does help cover the expense of that page. Of course, as you know, we have a good membership. It's probably one of the best chamber memberships we've had, and that's thanks to the hard work Lori's done in this office. So our dues help pay for rent, for telephone, all the expenses that run salary, that run with a normal office. But what the city gives us is totally used for promotion of the cities of Wabasha, Kellogg. I know Lori can probably, cover. Oh, I know another thing that we have to pay for. We pay for a distribution company called CTM, and they do all of our distributing from the airport north, and put guides in, travel guides throughout the Twin Cities airport north. And I can tell you, my husband was heading to our sons and stopped in Moorhead and picked up one of our travel guides in Moorhead. So I, in fact, do know it's happening. We also pay another company that does mailings for us as well. Plus we do our own out of this office. We probably hit with postage ads, travel guides to all 50 states, if I had to guess, throughout the year. So with that, if you have some questions for me after Lori gives you a little bit, I'll let Lori talk a little more, and then I can certainly come back.
Thank you, Jane. Lori, anything you want to add?
Get it off. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I was wondering if anyone has any questions for us that they'd like to ask. I think Jane covered what we're doing here. We try to promote the city, the businesses. I've had a tremendous year with visitor count. That is another thing that we do. We keep track of visitor count, and that's something that's done through Tourism of Minnesota. They ask me to count how many people come into my office a day and telephone calls a day related to tourism questions. And so this year I have had just a tremendous amount. I've had over 1,600 visitors come into my office over the months. Which has been, during September and October, I couldn't keep up. Sometimes I'd have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people in at a time. And you know, it's not a very big office, so you have to kind of keep them separated with COVID and everything. And we did it, sanitize everything, and we're very, very happy with our counts though. And so was the Minnesota Tourism. They said I did a great job. I think the questions that I'm asked, travel guides, maps, information about Wabasha, numerous questions. And it's not just visitors, it's city residents too that come in here. Where can I get my hair cut today? Well, let me see, but I'm glad to answer any questions that comes my way. So I'm open for any questions. If not, we can close it and you can get on with your meeting.
I have one question, and Jane and I chatted about, my encouraging she and Lori to present, because we would really like to hear from you annually. I think it's good for us to know, the barometer. I would say what happens at the chamber and what you are aware of in terms of you're having your finger on the pulse of tourism as well as resident needs is information that could benefit chamber. So I would enjoy hearing a little brief update. It certainly doesn't have to be any big deal. Each year as we start to revisit the budget, or frankly, anytime, whenever that, kind of year in review makes sense for you. And the same for Main Street, because I don't think we're fully aware of all that's done by the organizations. All of us cannot be aware of what's conducted by all the organizations in our community. But one thing I wondered about is at the beginning of the COVID, some of the pandemic relief conversations, I was a part of a couple town halls, and chamber directors were very concerned because some of the relief was not going to be going to chambers. How is our chamber doing in terms of, its health and resilience for 2021 and beyond? Can you speak to that? How is it going?
Well, I think we're doing the best we can. I think the plus that I want to say, even for what's happened in the past, is, and I happened to be here one day when there was a director from the state of Minnesota with tourism in our office, and said he couldn't find a chamber office open from north of Red Wing all the way down and as far down as La Crosse. Winona, none of them were open. He was so excited to know we were open, offering information. which I think is a plus to say a lot for Lori and what the board felt. If she safely could have visitors in, we wanted to serve the public. And we did find out that people were traveling. Even if COVID was happening, they were still trying to figure out how to get out of the house, how to do some things with their kids and families. A lot of, good number of day trips, but we saw a good flux of people from Iowa, Illinois, kind of that area, and then day trippers from the Twin Cities that came down. So certainly a plus. I think the other thing I wanted to just hit on briefly was the fact that I don't know what happened to me, but anyway, when Wabasha Kellogg Chamber started, the city handled all of those incidental calls of people wanting to know about real estate, buying property, what's the school district offer. And so when Virginia Fosma, which tells all of you a long time ago, came to me to say, what can we do to get a chamber started in Wabasha? That's when we started to try to promote. So when Lori says people within Wabasha, honestly, council, don't think about trying to find the city hall number. They call us. How are we going to fix a clock under the bridge that's not working? How can I get sand for my sandbox? And all those things, or how do I find a realtor to locate prices for buying a business? They come to the chamber, whether we're easy to find, I'm not sure. I don't care, not complaining. We're glad to help the public out, and that's what we feel is our job. And we try really hard for Wabasha and Kellogg. And as you know, we're Wabasha Kellogg Chambers. So back to COVID going forward, I think we'll continue to do the best job we can do here by maintaining everything as status quo as we can, being safe. If Lori feels it's not safe, the board has given her permission to not have the chamber open, but we're going to try hard to keep it open.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question for Jane or Lori?
Yeah, I just had a little comment about, we've heard in the past or talked in the past that Kellogg only pays $700 a year to the Wabasha Kellogg Chamber of Commerce, and we give 15 to 20,000. We were 20,000 several years ago. Is that really fair to Wabasha?
Well, I think we don't do as much for Kellogg. I agree they should be raised, and it could be something we can look at this year. Kellogg does have their own website. That's another thing. Just like Wabasha, but the Lions Club is really the organization that does their events in Kellogg. It isn't the city of Kellogg, it's their Lions. So it's kind of a funny situation. You don't know where to go to. I had a bill for the city of Kellogg for pictures for the Watermelon Festival, and the city wouldn't pay it. They said, well, we don't do the Watermelon Festival. And the Lions wouldn't pay it because they said the city should pay it. So who ends up paying it? Wabasha. But, things like that, I think have to get straightened out. I think they've been put on the back burner. And I really think we do have to have a meeting with Kellogg to see if they can increase their contribution to Wabasha Kellogg Chamber. I'm going to let Jane give her thoughts on it too, since I'm a little new at it. But as soon as I saw that figure, I was kind of shocked also in the office here.
First, I'll say, I said, praise the Lord, we got $700 from Kellogg, and sorry if Kellogg's listening, that's reality. So thank you, Wabasha, for stepping up. That's what I say to that. We have a council that really, truly works for the best interest of Wabasha, and you guys should all pat yourselves on the back for that. We do have really 3 main businesses in Kellogg that support our chamber and do a good job, and we support them. That's Lark Toys, that's Quick Trip of Wabasha and Kellogg, and it's the Front Porch. Those are the only 3 businesses that participate in the Wabasha Kellogg Chamber. So there's many times I want to publish a list of our members to say, this is who you need to support people in Wabasha and Kellogg. So if we could figure out who to go to and how to squeeze some more out of Kellogg, trust me, and that's hard for me to say because I'm a Kellogg girl at heart. And certainly we know where Lori lives and it's not Wabasha. So we'll try, Jeff. It's a good question. Yes, they pay $700 and we used to not get that much. But Lori's also keeping better track and doing a good job here and not just saying willy-nilly we'll pay for the bill, because we're not paying for the bill. If it hasn't been authorized, if she hasn't approved it, don't send us the bill because we're not paying for it. Sorry, Jessica, I know where you live too, but
There's a lot of awesome Kellogg people in this group. Don't worry about it. One thing I would say, you know, I'm a pretty new resident, is that when you move to a small community, especially from one of larger, place of larger density, every little town around adds to the, you know, the conglomerate offering of the community. So I really see, you know, if it's just those 3 businesses, like you said, Jane, thank God for that. I really, you know, to see those strong participators in our neighboring city, especially in our, you know, where we share a school district, you know, I'm enthusiastic about that. So, you know, I want to see participation too, but we do recognize we're a significantly bigger city. Your office is on our main street. Naturally, obviously there's a benefit to that. So I certainly would encourage anybody in Kellogg who would like to see the chamber thrive to urge that participation financially too. But I can also see why, you know, I certainly would never expect it to be 50-50. We have the benefit of the chamber office here and all of that means related to your comments. But
I go Speedlings, the concrete place, also are tremendous members and work hard at promoting. You promote them and vice versa. So sorry, Speedlings, I didn't mean to. I was going off the top of my head and I shouldn't do that.
Thank you.
So we're open if we didn't answer your questions, you know, either speak up, don't hesitate to call Lori or me. We try to be available and open to any of you.
We have an action on that. So thank you, Lori and Jane. I'm sure you have other things you can do. You can join us for the rest of our meeting, but we understand if you can't. So please have
just one more comment. I really would appreciate that the Chamber of Commerce gives a presentation in our budget workshops at the very beginning, because that way everybody in the whole community will know what you guys do, because we kind of don't really get a good clear picture of where our money goes.
Thanks, Jeff, for saying that. You know, I can't speak for this year, but I know in the past, I was actually invited to the table for that meeting and to give a presentation. So whether you've changed your process or how it happens now, but we're open. If we're asked or told, we'll be there. We won't miss that opportunity.
And we usually get really good press coverage of that meeting too. So it's a nice way to plug the chamber in the earned media sector. All right. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
All right. We have next our budget resolution, and that's we can talk further about some of the numbers. We have in front of us I don't know what it is about my agenda. It just decides about halfway through our meeting that it doesn't want to respond. We of course have our resolution and final 2021 budget levy with a total levy of $1,998,737. It speaks to the different funds and our debt service, as well as the levy of the Port Authority. And I hope if anybody has any questions remaining after our December 1 meeting, that they've exchanged those questions with staff. But if not, does anyone have any further questions, or otherwise we would entertain a motion on this annual budget for 2021.
Move to approve.
I second it.
We have a motion from Friedmeier. We have a second from Walrick. Do we have any further discussion?
Yes, and Tyler put up the final numbers as far as the impacts to the taxpayers and what the final numbers really are as far as the taxpayers.
I bet he can.
Wendy, can you enable screen sharing? Also, I can just read them off for you guys. While she's getting that, so it does come to, I just used $150,000 value. That's what we've always used in the past. So assuming the 50 certification brings our 5.9% increase down to roughly 2.9%. That equates to a full year increase of $19.14 or $1.60 per month. had to share my screen.
Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, getting a chance. That screen share is always kind of sluggish. It just never,
Yeah.
never works as quick as you want it to.
What up here? Okay.
Ta-da.
Okay. So up here is where we left off, the December 1st council meeting, and then up here you can see the 5.9. That's our actual levy increase, but the real number to pay attention to is going to be the 2.9 here that the taxpayers will see.
Thanks. I really like this format, Tyler. I feel like we've all gotten really comfortable with this format, and it seems like we can stay on track with it and mentally reference how the changes have affected the total percent. Any further questions?
So yeah, when that reduction of 3%, is that going to show up when you get your statement in April?
Yeah, that should be on the April statement. So we'll be getting money back from the county. Make up for that. So that will be factored in April, I believe, correct. Well, I've been working with Mike Rubani, David Jones Associates, just to make sure that we're up to date on all the paperwork and filing that needs to go into the decertification. So definitely on track to have that done here. So by the end of the year.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we could entertain a motion, or excuse me, a roll vote. All right, hearing none. Go ahead, Wendy.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Sala,
Yes.
Woodley,
Yes.
Friedmeier,
Yep.
Walrick,
Yes.
Durand.
Yes. Thank you, thank you. Another process I feel proud of. I really appreciate all the good debate and of course the soul searching by department heads to look for, you know, anything we might do to make adjustments for this year. I should say first year.
Mayor,
Okay, and yes, go ahead.
do we need to open up for the truth in taxation?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And procedurally, we just open that portion,
Correct.
right? Okay. So we would have the opportunity for public comment related to truth and taxation. Any public comment? If you haven't done this before, Zoom is intimidating, but it's not difficult. You just want to unmute yourself. You'll see a little red, on the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a little green microphone. If it's red, you're muted. When you click that, you will be able to be heard. Just state your name and address and any comment you have related to truth and taxation. Okay. I'm not hearing any public comment, but there is a chat function as well. If for some reason you're having difficulty, also at the bottom is a little thought bubble or speech bubble. And if you click that and just say help, we can revisit whether there's public comment. Otherwise, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is our police union contract. We have staff recommendation for a motion to approve the drafted police union contract for 2021. If you looked at the red line version versus the final, you would probably acknowledge there's not a lot of redlining at this point. Some detail related to payout of vacation in excess of what can be accrued. And do you want to give us context, Wendy? Any information we should have? There was language which it appears to have been abandoned related to some liability that the city's attorney felt that language didn't need to be in the contract. Any information for us about the process that we should be thoughtful of?
No, moving forward, we met beginning of last week. Jeff was in on the meeting as well as Jane Glander and Rob Benz for the police department, and then also Haas Raymer. They actually came forward with a higher increase for the police to begin with, but they didn't realize that we were doing a 1.5 COLA across the board for all employees, which included the PD. So they were happy with that. They all seemed to be very happy working with us, and they did indicate that they wanted to see a step increase at December 31st, 2021, and then the second step increase January 1st of 2022. So they would move 2 steps within a period of a day or two at the end of this upcoming year into 2022. That all seemed feasible. We also agreed on doing a 1-year contract rather than a 2-year contract because we didn't know where we'd be sitting with 2022 at this point with the pandemic and everything moving forward. Anything I missed, Jeff?
Nope, sounds good.
So just to reaffirm that indemnification clause, Article 26 has been eliminated. And just a housekeeping thing, not only was the clause eliminated, but so was Article 26. So when you read through it, it's Article 25, Article 27. I don't know if that makes a difference, but just so you know.
Thanks. You know, I would say too, you know, I had heard from the chief that, you know, it might at some point, you know, if we have issues like that where indemnification, you know, is something that we, you know, we feel, or the city's attorney advises even is not appropriate and the union sticks to it, you know, we can always have a dialogue directly with the union. You know, I know for Rob, you know, as a steward, sometimes it's overwhelming, you know, having been a union member myself, you know, you're taking in the information. I wasn't a steward, but you're taking in the information, but we can hear directly from the union too, if needed. And sometimes that direct conversation makes us a better educated council too, in terms of decision-making. So I told the chief, if that needs to happen, you know, that always can happen, but it sounds like it was, the issue was resolved. All right, hearing nothing further. Again, we have a staff's recommendation for a motion to approve the drafted police union contract for 2021. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I think I heard Tim first. We got Wallerick on making the motion. We have Sulla second. Do we have any further discussion? All right, hearing no further discussion or questions, we can take a roll call vote.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Sulla,
Yes.
Woodley,
Yes.
Friedmeier,
John?
Friedmeier,
John's video is frozen. John, I wonder if you stop your video, if your audio will pick up. I can see he's not sleeping. He's frozen. So
It's awfully cold out there. So.
Great.
he dropped.
There, that's better.
Friedmeier,
Yes.
Wallerick,
Yes.
Durand.
Yes. I will say, like, I just laugh because I've been on Zoom for so much of the last decade, and that used to happen so much more frequently. So if we were experiencing that in COVID times, we'd really be losing it. So that's the first time that's happened to me certainly in a council meeting, but I think in a long time. And we're glad to have you back, John. Okay, now our next item is general business 2.5, resignation of full-time ambulance crew member. I'm sure Ed will give us the background we need here. We have information related to Sabrina Jones wanting to resign her full-time position as of December 18th. However, her desire is to still remain as a volunteer, which is welcomed by the department. Ed, what would you like us to know before we call for a motion?
I'd just like to say thanks to Sabrina for her time that she has spent with us. Currently right around 9 months. It was greatly appreciated. She did quite a bit of different work, helping out with new members coming on and different things. She's moving forward into her nursing degree that she's been trying to achieve. She's an LPN now, trying to get into an RN program. I wish her nothing but the best. she's just bettering herself by moving up into the nursing degree and is wanting to move on. So I'm looking to rehire her job coming up, if possible.
Do we need to procedurally have a motion on both of these items, both accepting her resignation and then a subsequent one for permission to advertise? Okay, so just, that's the procedure. Anybody have a motion?
I'll make motion.
We have a motion by Dean. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I heard Tim. We have a motion by Moyer, second by Walrick. Any further discussion?
What's the motion for?
To accept the resignation of this full-time ambulance crew member. Then we'll have to take different action to give Ed permission to advertise.
Hey, Ed, what kind of impact is this going to have on your scheduling?
So basically what will happen is we're going to take our full-time staff off the weekends and mainly just cover the weekdays and whatever else is coming in. So until that one's covered, we just have one.
This is Mayor. Will this affect transports and stuff?
Should not,
All right,
no.
thank you.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Hearing no further discussion, unless somebody wants to jump in.
Walrick,
Yes.
Friedmeier, Woodley,
Yes.
Sulla,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Durand.
Yes. All right, subsequent, we have a request for permission to advertise for that full-time EMT position.
I'll make motion. This is Moyer.
Thank you. We have a,
Second.
that was Craig, I believe. Is that correct? Great, I'm sorry, I'm back in my agenda. We have a motion by Moyer, second by Falcom. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, Ed. Can you give me just an idea of the hiring process? We just went through hiring with the committee. Do you have a committee or do you use the ambulance board? Do you guys get together, do interviews? How does that work out?
So in the past, we have used volunteers, commission members, different things of that nature. And currently, as I'm speaking, I would like to bring it more to say how you guys hire every individual full-time employee through the city. Some I don't know, like Wendy and Tony and them or whoever else wants to join in, but I would like to do that because I can schedule the times through work times instead of after hours, and trying to get every individual person together is very difficult at times. And it seems to drag out the process a little too long.
Yeah,
So-
I just want, oh, go ahead and finish.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I just, I thought I don't know how it works out with timing, but if you could involve Lori in the hiring process, I think she'd be a real asset to you, just based on our conversations. So I would encourage working that out if possible.
I would love to do that.
If I may, I think, Ed, you're hiring a city employee, a full-time employee of the city. So we probably should look at running it through the personnel committee, and of course, Lori would be a part of that committee as well as whoever sits on it at the time.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I just couldn't think of the wording.
There you go.
Ed, my only other suggestion on this, and it's just to a point, I think you should have some of the volunteers full-time screen some of these applicants and then send it to the personnel committee, because I'm pretty sure the personnel committee is not fluent on our ambulance rhetoric and education and stuff. So I think we kind of handle it the way we did the administrator, just kind of have a phone or at least screen them first and then have interviews on that.
Tim, I agree with you 100%.
It sounds good.
I'm glad Tim doesn't feel that was a waste of time. I thought it was really effective too.
No, it's good.
It's good. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, we could take a roll call vote.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Sula,
Yes.
Woodley,
Yes.
Friedmeier,
Yes.
Walrick,
Yes.
Durand.
Yes. All right, and we can entertain a motion to adjourn. I think it's to
Madam
be.
Mayor?
Yes,
Madam Mayor?
absolutely. Go ahead, Craig.
If I could I borrow a few minutes while everybody's
Please.
still here?
Please, yes, I know on these special meetings, we don't typically have announcements, but there's nothing wrong with that. Please, Craig.
Okay, so first off, I'd just like to say congratulations to Darren on your win in the election. I know you do a good job for the city, so here's a virtual handshake for you. And I just want to say it's been an interesting 4 years these last 4 years, so I've learned a lot. I was glad to serve the citizens of the city, and I know that I couldn't have done it without the support of the staff. So Wendy and Jessica, Lori and Tyler, they were great. And then I just want to say that I really enjoyed working with you guys, the council, and you, Madam Mayor, and on the commissions. And I think Rollins gone, but I enjoyed working with Rollin when he was mayor here too. So, and everybody else, it's just been an enjoyable time. So thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Craig. Well, I was going to save my thanks to you until the 31st, just to, for a little drama at the tail end of the year. If you think I'm done with you, you're wrong. I don't want to scare you, but it's exciting to think about this new chapter with the new administrator. We're still going to have these conversations ongoing related to Greater Minnesota Futures, which is not if anybody in the community wants to participate in that, I think that'll make it a better process. So Craig knows he's going to be hearing from me, but we really appreciate your service, Craig. You've been a good mentor to me in terms of how to conduct oneself with regards to the community. Again, the partnership, even before I was mayor, was a good it was good foreshadowing for what it would be like to be on council together. And so I'll make sure that we get to continue to work together. And I echo what you said about Darren. I look forward to his service too. I have a feeling we'll still be seeing you in City Hall.
Yeah, I can't let everything go. So thank you.
Anybody else have an announcement? Just a reminder, we do have a December 31st bill pay meeting, and remind me of the time, Wendy. Sorry, I shouldn't put you on the spot like that.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay, so we'll have a little New Year's Eve meeting. Very good. Otherwise, we could entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make them up.
I'll let Jeff be first there. I think I heard him, and Sulla first, Walrick second, and we'll take a roll call vote.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Moyer,
No.
Sala,
Yes.
Woodley,
Yes.
Friedmeier,
Yes.
Walrick,
Yes.
Durand.
Yes. Dean, did you need to have a cup of coffee with somebody or what? We're all lonely. I went to my church today to be a virtual lector. That was really exciting, but it was really nice just to run into somebody I hadn't seen in a long time. So I agree. These meetings, while they're a little painful via Zoom, it's a bright spot to see everybody. And I really appreciate everybody's time. Have a good night.
Laugh every now and then.
Good night, everyone.
Peace.